SolidWorks CAD Modeling, Lecture 2, Part 1, Sketches. First of all, we can open a part file and enter sketch mode on XY plane. When we enter a sketch mode, that means we leave 3D space and enter a plane, 2D space, and draw only lines. These are the toolbars for the sketches, only lines on a single plane. So this symbol means that you leave 3D space and enter a plane. So everything you draw here is on a single plane. First of all, we can draw lines, and a triangle here means that there is a sub toolbar inside, and we can draw lines. For example, several lines, and we can also draw center lines or midpoint lines. We can place dimensions on the lines. For example, horizontal dimension, vertical dimension, total length dimension, and also angles between lines. First line, second line, angle. So this is straight lines. And then we can draw rectangles, corner rectangle, and we can place dimensions for the total length. Dimensions to position the rectangle. So we can call it positioning dimension. For example, the 40 and 30 here is positioning dimension, and this is the length dimension. This is for positioning. And also we can draw center rectangle. For center rectangle, you don't have to place location dimension. You place only length dimension, because the center point is already coincide with the origin. And we can also draw 3-point corner rectangle. First point, second point, third point. And also 3-point center rectangle. Center point, edge point, height. And also parallelogram. First point, second point, parallelogram. Of course, you can place dimensions on it, but we have already talked about that. So these are for the rectangles. And then we'll talk about circles. There are 3 kinds of circles. First one is the center circle. The second is 3-point circle, point 1, point 2, point 3. And then there are arcs, 3 kinds of arcs, and we'll talk about that later. For a full circle, the dimension will be the diameter of the circle. For a 3-point circle, you might want to place dimensions for the center. Okay, these are for circles. And then we'll talk about straight slot. Straight slot, point 1, point 2 slot. Center point straight slot, point 1, point 2 slot. So these are different ways to draw straight slot. The first one is edge point, slot. The second one is center point, edge point, slot. Okay. Of course, you can place dimensions on it. Then we have 3-point arc slot, 0.1, 0.2, and top point slot, 0.1, 0.2, top point slot. This is 3-point slot. Center point arc slot, center point, start point, end point arc. Center point, start point, end point slot. So these are slots, and we can also draw arcs. For example, center arcs, center point, radius, start point, end point. And for the arcs, we can place dimensions for the angles. Or we can place dimensions for the length of the arc, starting point, end point, arc, dimension. But this conflicts, so I'll delete this one. I'll delete one of them. For example, this one. So this is the length of the arc. Okay. Now, for the second types of arc, is 3-point arc, 0.1, 0.2, top point, 0.1, 0.2, top point. So we have talked about center point arc, center point, center point arc, center point, radius, starting point, end point. So this is center point arc, and 3-point arc, starting point, end point, top point. And then there are tangent arc. For example, we have two lines, and we'll place tangent arc on them. So we choose tangent arc and pull from this end and join from the other. Pull from this end and join onto the other. So this is tangent arc. It generates a tangent arc for the lines. So this is the sketches for the part 1. We have talked about lines and parallelogram, and also rectangles, circles, arcs, and also slots.